In 1964, my father-in-law Dennis Coppard set off on a grand adventure with his friend Ian Turpey to paddle down the Mackenzie River to Inuvik. They set off somewhere around Taylor, BC, and they spent 2 months afloat. While going through their footage, I was delighted to find that they had unwittingly documented the presence of a few traditional skin boats along the way, so I thought I would share those with you. While the birch bark canoes of the eastern and central regions of Canada, as well as the skin-on-frame kayaks of the Arctic, are well known, there are lesser-known types of open boats that are found in the west along the regions of the Mackenzie River. The larger of these craft is a moose skin boat, in which a gunnel structure is created, and then a hide is draped down in between the gunnels and pinned in place. In this case, it's moose hide. And then a backbone, stringers, and ribs are pushed down into place to create the form of the boat. You can find a National Film Board of Canada movie called The Last Moose Skin Boat that documents the construction of one of these in detail. What's worth noting is just the handful of stringers that are giving this thing any kind of longitudinal form. Also the oarlocks for both propulsion and steering. Boats like this were sometimes only built for a single season's migration. The main difference in skin-on-frame construction is generally the presence of a backbone running down the center of the boat. Typically, bark construction doesn't include a backbone, but there's one exception to this that I know of called a dog-rib canoe. And here's a small example of one which makes me think that this might be a transitional boat in which it was sometimes built with skin and sometimes built with bark. This last scene doesn't really include a skin boat at all. This is a canvas-covered canoe, but what interests me here are the paddles that this man is using. They're particularly chunky, and it looks like he might have actually carved these things with an axe. As I went through this footage, one thing that struck me was how often I saw canoes, either lying along the shore or being used by people. This is the Mackenzie River, and it's a lifeline to all these small communities, and it's clear that at this time, canoes were a major part of that. Even the RCMP detachment had a canoe. If you're to go down this same river today, you'll see a few of those boats still lying around, but they're mostly derelicts, and the aluminum skiff has mostly taken their place. One thing's for sure is that my father-in-law had no idea how much of a treasure he was creating when he decided to bring his movie camera along on this canoe trip.